My name is Gloria Delano. I am 91, and my husband and I moved into Becketwood in 2003, but we were on the waiting list for 9 years. My husband was absolutely fascinated with Becketwood. It was such a pleasure for him to enjoy the community. As to aging personally, truthfully, I never gave it a thought. I just went with the years. It was the goal of the church home to provide a complex for independent aging. And the 10 women development team, who were all members of the Episcopal Church Home Board in St. Paul, then moved forward as directed by the board to develop a complex for people, 55 and older, who wanted to live independently. We started out, we bought the land in the early 1980s and moved on there with our architect and our builder. You can imagine our architect sitting there looking at 10 women telling them how they think the building should be built. They had to have a lot of patience. They had to have a lot of understanding, because the 10 women were really excellent sources of information, all of them having backgrounds in living in homes, what they felt they'd be comfortable with. And because we were building, we could only go 6 stories to the river, but we could never go more than 4 to the neighborhood. We had to go around, the 10 of us divided up in teams of 2, to petition the neighborhood in order to build this complex on this land. And of all the people, I had the area down here toward the river. There was one woman that said no, she did not want us to build here, because the Minneapolis Academy soccer team used the land, and she did not want them to have to give up the land. And she would not sign the petition to build. But other than that, everybody, when we explained what the building was, the size, the number, at that time it was about 200 and plus units, we got a yes, because they preferred us to how many houses that would be built. And so that was the very first thing we did when we decided to build. You must remember our agreement with Children in Arms was the chapel was to be included in the purchase, and it was to remain. And so therefore that is part of our complex. And Hamel Green then designed the building, as people note, that faces the chapel and makes it a focal point, the view of the chapel. First person moved in 1986, and the building was still not complete, but he needed a housing. We provided all the services that we promised to people. We unfortunately did not completely fill as a co-op, because people did not understand what a co-op was. And when you have a unit, you were a member of a cooperative. So we had a bit of a marketing problem, convincing people they loved the land, they loved the units, but they weren't sure about what the type of life they were moving into. So it was a little difficult marketing in the beginning. The time Becketwood was completed, there were really only 6 co-ops in the area, in Minnesota. Now, to my understanding, there are 60 co-ops now. So it took off. We were not completely filled for over 2 years. Therefore, the church home, having been the sponsor, they did lose some money. I served on the board here, and I also served with marketing here. I'm not on marketing any longer, but I do feel that there is not an issue any longer about selling a co-op as it was in the beginning 30 years ago, because it was new. I think people are more understanding, they don't take issue with it. And to my knowledge, there has been that is not an issue when we go out and market one of our units anymore. My husband was extremely pleased to be here. Very comfortable, enjoyed all of his life here. First of all, we had lived in the neighborhood, which on Kaufman Lane, from the time the house was built in the 60s. Our family was not in the area. First of all, our families moved out east. Both of our boys are out east. We did not have immediate family in the area. So we were rather not lonely, but in need of some sort of a community. My husband, in fact, was the one, they had an open house. We came over and he said, we're going to move. The unit was available and we moved immediately. So we had no problems moving. And Jim, I have to say how wonderful it was for his years, because he was in the workshop, he made all new friends, close friends, was extremely comfortable, and we did a lot of traveling while we were here. So it was an excellent move, and I can't stress it more. I realize that men are reluctant to give up their independence, if you call it that. But I can only say that it was the greatest move ever for Jim for his years here. Thoroughly enjoyed his companionship, the friends he made, the workshop, and to be able to just travel, lock a door, and know everything is secure when you come back. It was great years. Our family being out of town, we had to travel to visit them. They had to travel to visit us, but we had our family, quote unquote, here, and were extremely supportive for me since I lost my husband. This is a very strong support group here. Very strong, very comfortable. I had great support from everybody here. So it was our home in 2003 and we enjoyed it. I am still comfortable. I am moving on with my life. I am aging. It doesn't bother me. I'm not thinking about it. It's an interesting attitude, I suppose. I know, should I have a fall, should I have any problem, there is someone here that would take care and see that I get to where I need to go. I did have a problem, and security stayed with me until ambulance came. They were right there with me, saw that I got there, checked on everything for me. Now, if you're in your home, what do? No, the secure feeling of if something should happen is very strong here. Remember the security person, when they took me, she said, well, now don't worry, I'll check through your unit and I'll lock the door and see everything is taken care of. And then that's it. I could go off to where I had to go, and she saw that everything was taken care of. Now, that's a very good plus to live in a unit like that.